So I am so happy to be talking with Ricardo Gallardo, Tambuco's artistic director and one of the members of the quartet. And I think, are you coming to me from Mexico City? Where are you?
That's right. We are based in Mexico City
Wonderful.
and we are flying there. Although the studio where Tambuco works is not in Mexico City, it's in the state of Veracruz, a couple of hours from the city.
Mm,
Uh, but that's very convenient for us because when we go to the studio, it's like a retreat. We really go there
mm,
to work. It's in the middle of a rainforest, a coffee growing place, and the studio is located there, and the studio was specifically built for percussion. So
mm.
it's noise proof, and we are surrounded by nature. And when we go there, I was saying that it's like a retreat because we do nothing but focus on music 24/7. So
How perfect.
that's how we work.
And I have to say that's actually a great segue to my first question, or to say that the virtual concert that you did for us last year was the surprise hit of the season. It had
Great.
more views than anything else we had, and people loved it, and they are still talking about it all the time. And one of the things they loved so much was, and one of the benefits, that it was a virtual concert, even though we always prefer live, but the fact that it was virtual, it was wonderful to see your studio and all those amazing instruments that were in back of you and around you, and everyone was so fascinated with that. So I'm kind of wondering,
Yes.
thinking you're not bringing all those instruments with you to Portland, but what instruments can we expect to see in Portland with you?
Yes. Well, going back to your comment, Pat, is I think that hopefully we will bring the spirit of this place where we make music, the studio,
Perfect.
because it was, yes, the instruments are very visually attractive. They are orally attractive as well, the sound of these instruments. But I think that one of the virtues of Tambuco is trying to find the soul of these instruments and try to portray this and project this to the audience. Yes, the virtual concerts were good to show that, but nothing compares to be there alive and to experience that everything that is involved in the process of a concert is so important. Our sounds mean nothing, our performances mean nothing if there's not a couple of ears to receive it and to transmit it to each one's soul. And in
Mhm.
this, the the place, the venue in which we play, becomes also um, a place where sound vibrates. So is also another musical instrument, and
Mhm.
that I am sure after 2 years of isolation, everyone will understand this much more clear when we will understand why it's so important to be in the same place where music is being generated and being spread through the air in the hall in which we play. It's so important. It's one of the first things that I realized when I went back after 2 years to play in front of a live audience. Is it, we make the concert experience, everyone involved makes this concert experience. We would we would not mean anything without the audience and without the place in which we all experience this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, the audience sort of brings another, maybe not another instrument, but it's definitely just another element that makes it all work together.
Exactly. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. I agree with that.
So I know you've talked about how you don't like to be, the group does not like to be tied down to maybe one style of music, and just wondering how you approach a program for different concerts. And is there a certain journey that you like to take your audience on during a concert?
Sometimes, yes, and sometimes we let that music tells everyone uh, his or her own story, you know. Uh, Sometimes we try to describe a musical path that invites us to explore certain sonorities, certain expressive capabilities of the instruments. And sometimes it's just the pure joy of music, you know. And so but most of the times I try to invite our audiences to to just surround themselves to the to how music can be so can captivate us and it's so mesmerizing, you know, that you don't need
Mhm.
like a textual description of an adventure journey. And that's what makes it so magical because we don't have to describe it with words, just with emotions and the images that the sound creates in in your mind and your soul. Sometimes we hear happy or sad music and we cannot say with words why is sad or why is happy. It's just the message that we get. And that's the magic of music, not being able to describe it with words.
Is there anything in particular you're hoping our audience will take away from your performance with us?
Um, some things, yes. One, that you will see music performed in instruments that are not really instruments, but objects. Like we decided to bring the stone piece that we played um, because you can see how music can live in a pair of apparently unexpressive objects, and you see how the musical genius lives in the imagination of those who write for the instruments or objects and those who perform it. You know, in and I always say that in that sense, a pair of rocks can be as expressive as an Stradivarius violin. You know,
Mhm.
it's about how you use it, about your imagination and the expression that you put into it.
Well, and certainly
That's
that's true. Yeah, with
yeah.
musicians like yourselves. Yeah.
That's one of the things that we hope to show. The other is a little sample, like a tip of the iceberg, of the immense variety of sounds and 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 technical capabilities of this huge family of instruments. So those two things combined.
Wonderful. Well, I know that collaboration has been really important to you. You've done a lot of collaborations with different musicians and just different artists. And
Yes,
of the many artists you've collaborated with, I know that you recorded a Grammy nominated recording with the Kronos Quartet. And
that's
they
right.
have been, we have presented them several times on our series as recently
Yes.
as this last February. So we love it that two of our favorite groups have collaborated in the past, and I'm just wondering any stories to tell about that collaboration, or maybe one of your favorite collaborations that
Oh,
you've done.
yes. I mean, absolutely. With Kronos, there's nothing but empathy and resonance. I would say, I would to put it in musical terms. Um, I think that we consider Kronos as our older brothers or something that Tambuco would like to be like them, when we get
Mm,
older. I mean, we all get older with time, uh, but yes, Kronos has said to us, is the living proof of something that we believe. We believe that music is this environment where no borders exist. No, music is just the first name. Classical or folk or traditional or pop is the surname, you know. But we are
mhm,
just one family uh, with the same name. It's the same name of
mhm,
music, and music teaches us that countries in the map are sometimes lines, just lines in the map, and we music makes us zoom out from where we are, this little rock, which is the third from the sun, this little rock, and we are able to zoom ourselves out and to realize that we are just one species. And music is a chance to celebrate that the creation, the imagination of these species that are us, to speak about who we are in reality, or who would we like to be, And we describe our realities, or we invent new ones, we invent new worlds, we travel the world with music. And I think that makes us, both musicians and audiences, makes us wiser. I mean, that's our hope, that we become
mhm.
better human beings by listening to each other through our most inspirational creations, which are the artistic works, music, painting, like the one beautiful behind you, and everything.
So
Yes,
true. Well, and I can
yes,
see why your two groups got together on this, because I think you have very similar philosophies about all that, and it's all one
yes.
part of,
I remember
yeah,
very
one
much
huge
a saying of David Harrington, the first violinist of the Kronos Quartet. He says that if you start traveling west, you end up in the east, So this
so
notion
true.
of east and west is so blurry, and it has to be that way.
Yeah, yeah.
We like to I like to define ourselves as just musicians from this world, from this planet. Yes.
That's great. Well, I know another thing that's really important to the group is working with young musicians, and I know I love that um, you've likened it to planting seeds um, when you work with young musicians. And I love that metaphor. And you're going to be doing that here in Portland. You'll be working with some students at Portland State University and also with Metropolitan Youth Symphony. So,
Yes.
how do you approach planting seeds for young students? What is the thing you emphasize the most, or what do you hope to impart to them?
Yes. Well, as you well said, I'm a man of metaphors. I like to use them. Perhaps because sometimes when it comes to speaking, I wish I was a writer or a poet to to have a complete control of the words that I use. I am not. That's why I'm a musician, and I choose sounds to work with, or metaphors. And there's one that I think that I like. We, in all the process of our lives, I think that from the moment that we are born, we are like little sponges, and we go through life learning and looking at things and assimilating things. In other words, absorbing is a sponge that is absorbing. But I think that is a process that has two phases because it comes, uh, this process comes to the point that you absorb so much, but you are not taking it with you, you know. When we depart from this life, we go with nothing, you know, we don't take anything with us. So we must realize when the time comes to push this and squeeze this sponge. So everything that you learned, all the experiences that you had, now you let them out, and these are going to be good for younger generations to absorb and perhaps save them time in the way of learning and saying, you know, it cost me 5 years to learn that, but if you learn this trick, you know, it will take you 1 year only and 4 more years of practice, you know, but
Right.
perhaps hopefully we will give you a detour option to get faster to those places that you want to reach. So for me it's very important in these occasions of doing master classes or educational work, not only to pass on this knowledge, but also to seed the idea that everyone has a goal, everyone has a point of arrival. And this point of arrival can be very different for each one. And it has to be that way, otherwise, it would be very boring
Hmm.
to go to arrive in the same place, you know? So, one, one thing is to share that knowledge and hopefully save time or to pave them the way to go smoother, but to help them discover which one is that to help them discover that each one has a different destination,
Hmm.
and the fact that your destination is not the same one as the destination of your colleague doesn't mean that yours is less important. Both are as important, and we must uh, we must be happy with this idea because it's a unique experience. And I will tell you from where I learned this. I learned this when I was a student, and I realized that my career in the university as a percussionist compared to the career of a pianist or a violinist was totally different, you know, from their careers.
Hmm.
I didn't have the classics to learn from. I mean, Mozart didn't write for percussion, Brahms didn't write for percussion, Bach didn't write for. I mean, how wonderful would have been, would have been, you know? And so I realized this has to be different. Uh, so, and I try to imagine those people who were in the premieres of pieces that now we consider classics, you know, who would have not liked to be one of the violinists who premiered um, the last six string quartets of Beethoven. Just imagine, or singing in the choir of his Ninth Symphony, or premiere one of Haydn's quartets. That would have been fantastic. But that was not my time. My
Hmm.
time is here and now, and I am surrounded by fantastic living composers. Who knows if in 100 or 200 years, um, in in the theoretic scenario that I was alive in 200 years, I could say, oh, I played in the premiere of that piece that now you're considering a classic. Well, it's not for me to say, but my duty is to play it as best as my skill and my musical soul and my talent can deliver, you know? So it's very important because sometimes young percussionists they feel a little bit frustrated when they don't see these satisfactions coming from playing this magnificent repertoire. And
Mm,
it's like, okay, come on, we have the advantage of being living amongst amazing people that you can talk to. They are alive with you, and you can become part of the history of the future. So that's one thing that I try to reconcile with them.
well, it's such a gift that you'll be giving them, and I know such an inspiration. We sure appreciate that you'll be going out and working with the students. And I know your concert is going to be so amazing and such an inspiration for all of us. I think you know this is your concert will be at a brand new hall here in the Portland area. It's
Great.
the very first concert there, and so we're all excited to hear Tambuco and hear you in this new hall. So um, we
We
look
are so
forward.
much looking forward to it. But it has been two very hard years for musicians, as you know,
For sure.
uh, and it goes much more beyond the loss of work of our craft. You know, is the blocking of live music, and we see and we realize how important this 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 way of nurturing our souls is basic for all of us, you know. So I hope and I invite your audiences in Portland to to join us and just to be in a gathering, greeting music again, greeting the fact that we can share this live experience that is, even if you record it with the most definition, uh, state of the art equipment, it will never compare to the experience of being there when the music is being created.
I totally
So we
agree.
encourage you a lot to join us for all of those who will see this.
Well,
I
good.
really encourage that.
Well, we will be there. It will be so fun and so exciting. Safe travels, stay
Thank
well,
you
and
so
we're going
much.
to see you very soon. Thank you so
Yes,
much,
yes, very
Ricardo.
much.
And
Okay.
thanks for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you, Pat. Was a pleasure saying hello.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.